Hello everyone and welcome to DevOps HQ. In this video we are going to see that how we can mount our Google Cloud Storage bucket with our virtual machine such that we can able to perform read and write operations to our Google Cloud bucket from inside our virtual machine, such that if any of your application needs to write any objects or get any object from the Google Cloud Storage bucket, then they can get it using the standard file system semantics. So let's get started. So we will have a virtual machine, and through this virtual machine we want to access our Google Cloud bucket. So let's suppose this is our bucket which we want to access it through our virtual machine. So for that we have to use an adapter which is called GCS Fuse. So GCS Fuse is basically an open source adapter which helps us to mount our cloud bucket with our virtual machine. So let's suppose this is a folder which we have created, and we will mount this folder to our GCS bucket such that the files which is present inside our GCS bucket will be accessible from this directory. So let's start with the practical. So first of all, let's create a bucket. So type here bucket and click on this create button. I will name it as DevOps HQ, then click on continue. So for location type, I am choosing multi-region. As in multiple region, our data is distributed along the multiple geolocation such that if any natural disaster came up, then our data will remain safe in another regions, and also it helps in reducing the latency to the end user. So click on continue and then again click on continue. I want fine-grained access, then click on continue. Click on create. So it will give us a pop-up that the public access will be prevented, which means that the files or the objects present inside our cloud storage bucket will not be publicly accessible to any of the users. In case if you want, let's suppose if you are hosting a website and inside that you have some images which you want to store inside a bucket, then in that case you don't have to click on this checkbox, that is enforce public access prevention, because you want that those images which are present inside your bucket will be accessible to the end users. But in this case we don't want that any public user will able to access my files and objects. So that's why I am choosing enforce public access and then click on confirm here. So our bucket is get created, and now let's create the virtual machine. So let's go to compute, click on create instance. I will name this instance as GCS Fuse, and I will create it again in ACR South one. So choose this one, and then for boot disk I will go with Ubuntu and allow the traffics. This is not necessary, but let's allow it. Then click on create. So our virtual machine is getting created. So when our virtual machine gets created, we need to install the GCS Fuse adapter. So we have to install this GCS Fuse such that we will able to mount this bucket with our virtual machine. So now it's ready. So let's SSH inside this. So now we are inside our virtual machine. So let's become sudo, and now we have to install the GCS Fuse. So first of all we need to update our packages. So for that type apt-get update space -y, update -y. So it will update our repositories and packages, and after that we have to install some of the packages. So our packages got updated now, and now we need to add some extra packages such that we will able to install the GCS Fuse, and for that we need to run these commands. So here just copy this command and hit enter. So what this command will do, this will fetch the latest repository for GCS Fuse. So if I do an echo, and if I echo this variable, that is GCS Fuse repo, then we can see the current repository for GCS Fuse is GCS Fuse local. So this repository will gonna copy in our virtual machine. So for that, just copy this command and hit enter. So its packages get downloaded, and now we have to install the keys for the above package. So just paste this below command and hit enter. And now we again have to update our machine such that the packages which we have added into our repository, it will be available and we will able to download the GCS Fuse. So it's updated, and now let's install the GCS Fuse here. So we have installed the GCS Fuse, and let's see if it's successful or not. So for that, type GCS Fuse -v. So here we can see that we are getting the GCS Fuse version, that is 2.3.2, which means that GCS Fuse is successfully installed. If in your case, if GCS version is not showing, then make sure you have successfully run all this command and you didn't miss any of the steps. So after installing the GCS Fuse, we need to provide the authentication such that we will able to access the objects from inside our GCS bucket. So for that, just copy this command and hit enter. It will basically generate the credentials for us. So hit enter, copy this command and open it in a new tab. Choose your Google account here and click on continue. And the token which you will get here, just paste it here and hit enter. So our credentials got generated now, and now let's create a directory in which we will mount the GCS bucket. So basically now we are creating this directory such that using this directory we will able to mount this bucket, and all the files which are present inside our bucket will be accessible in this directory. So just copy this command and hit enter. Now our folder is got created. So here we can see this is our mount folder. And now let's copy the below command and hit enter. So here in my case, my bucket name is DevOps HQ. So that's why I have written here DevOps HQ. But in your case, please make sure to change this according to your bucket name. And when you run this command, then you can see that at the end of this output, we can see that file system is successfully mounted. And now if we go inside our mount folder, then we can see we don't have any file here. So let's scroll down here and let's download this kitten PNG. So this will be the image. So just paste the command here and hit enter. So here we can see that now kitten.png is present in our mount folder. Now we can verify the same by going in our bucket. So just go to our bucket and let's go inside this bucket, that is DevOps HQ. So we can see that kitten.png is present here inside our bucket. Now let's suppose we create one more file. So just type echo and I will write here welcome to DevOps HQ, and I want to save it inside file.txt and hit enter. So we have created one more file, and if we come to the console and refresh this, so here we can see that file.txt is present here. So this is how we can mount our GCS bucket with our virtual machine. Now let's suppose instead of accessing the files of our bucket in a virtual machine, we want to access it inside our Docker container. So let's suppose we have a Docker container which is running inside this virtual machine, and we want to access the files of our bucket inside this container. So we have multiple methods to access the files present in our bucket inside our Docker container. So first method is, let's suppose we create a directory here and we will mount this directory with the directory which is present inside our virtual machine. So what happens, like when we will create this container, at that time a new folder will get created inside this container and this directory will be mounted to the directory which is present inside our virtual machine, such that all the files which is present inside this directory will be accessible inside our container. And our application will use this directory for read and write operations, and those changes will be reflected in our cloud bucket. So let's see how we can do that. So first of all, we need to install the Docker. So for that type, apt-get install docker.io space -y. Install docker.io. So Docker is installed now, and now we need to run our Docker container, and we have to mount the folder. So for that type, docker run space -- privilege. So to mount the directory with our Docker container, we have to provide this flag, that is -- privilege, such that our Docker will run in a privilege mode, and it will have the extra permission to access the directory and mount it. And after that, I want the console, so I will put -interactive, then I will define the volume. So first we have to provide the directory which is present in our virtual machine, that is /root/mount folder, and then we need to give the directory which is present in our Docker container. So I will give the /root/GCS Fuse, and if this directory, that is GCS Fuse, if it is not present in our Docker container, then it will be get created, and then we have to give the image name. So for this I will use Ubuntu. So here, like before the colon, the path which we have given, it is of our virtual machine, that is the directory where we want to mount this, and after the colon, the path which will be gonna present in our Docker container. So just hit enter. So we are now inside our Docker container, and let's go to the GCS Fuse directory, that is /root/GCS Fuse, and do an ls. So here we can see that we will able to access the files which is present in our cloud storage. And now let's suppose if I want to delete this file.txt from here, so I will do an remove file.txt and do an ls. And now if I came here to the console and if I refresh this, so here we can see that our file.txt has been deleted. So this is how we can mount GCS Fuse with our Docker container, such that if any of our application wants to put any file or access any file from our cloud storage bucket, then they will able to do that. We have one another method for achieving the same thing. So here in this case, as of now, whatever the packages which we are installing, it is present in our virtual machine, that is this inside this virtual machine. So the GCS packages, the mounting and everything is done inside this virtual machine, and we are running a Docker container through which we are accessing the cloud storage bucket, so which is following this path. Now we have one more way through which we can achieve the same thing. So instead of attaching the GCS Fuse with the virtual machine, we can directly attach the GCS Fuse to our container. So let's suppose this is our virtual machine and this is our container, and instead of attaching the GCS Fuse to our virtual machine, we will attach the GCS Fuse to our Docker container itself, and all those packages which we have installed in our virtual machine, now we have to install all those packages inside our container, and through this we will able to access our cloud bucket. So now we will access the cloud bucket directly through our Docker container. So let's see that how we can do this. So let's go to the console and let's exit it from this container, and now let's run new container. So for that type docker run, again we have to run it into privilege mode. So type privilege space -it to access the terminal, and then again put the image name, that is Ubuntu, and hit enter. So now we are inside the container, and now we have to install the GCS Fuse. So for that, again go to the documentation, and then we have to run this command. So if we directly run this command, then in this case it won't fetch the repository name for GCS Fuse because lsb release command is not present. So for that we have to make changes into this command. So just copy this. We know that when we have run this command for the first time, then it resolves toward the package name, that is gcs-focal. So I'll just copy this command now and run it inside this container. So now we have set the variable for our GCS Fuse repo, and now let's try to run this command. So sudo command is not present here, so we have to remove the sudo from our commands. So just copy this and hit now. So our repository get downloaded, and now we have to import the keys. So here also, like, we need to remove the sudo command from this, and now let's add our keys such that our repository will get verified. Okay, so curl command is also not there, so we have to install that. So type apt-get install curl space -y. Okay, so first we have to update our repository. So type apt-get update space -y. It will basically update all of our packages. And now let's try to install the curl. So curl command is get installed, and now if we run this command, yes, so this command is failed because we need any one of this package. So let's install it. So just type apt-get install gnpg space -y. And now let's try to add this key. So this key has added, and now again we have to run the apt-get upgrade command. So type apt-get update. This will add the packages of our new repository which we have just added for GCS Fuse. So this will add it, and now let's install the GCS Fuse. So again sudo is not there, so remove this and put a -y, and before that we have installed apt-get install curl and gnpg command. I will share this file with you in the description. So now paste this. So GCS Fuse is also installed, and now let's create our directory and try to mount it. Okay, so first of all let's check the version. Okay, it's working, and now we need to create our credentials. So here we need to run the gcloud command, but as of now gcloud command is not present in our Docker container. So first we need to install the gcloud command. So for that type curl space -si, and then give the URL, that is https://stk.cloud.google.com. So it will download the SDK, and then we want to pipe it with bash. Hit enter. So to install the gcloud command, first we need to install the Python. So for that type, let's install the Python apt-get install python 3 space -y. So while we are installing the GCS Fuse, at that time also we can install the Python 3. Okay, so we have to choose the region. So we are in Asia, and for time zone I am in Kolkata, so 44. So Python is installed now, and let's try to install the gcloud command now. Just copy this, hit enter. remove it, yes. So now gcloud command has installed. Let's check it. Okay, so we have to refresh our terminal. Just type bash, hit enter, and if I can now run the gcloud, yes, it's installed. And now let's run this command. So just copy it from here and run it. Hit enter, copy this URL, open it a new tab, and copy this token. Okay, so again run this command, copy this URL, select your ID, continue, copy this token and paste it here and hit enter. So our credentials got generated, and now let's try to mount our folder. So first we need to create the folder. So if we go inside /root/ then you can see that our folder is created, that is mount folder. And now if you go inside this mount folder, there is nothing. But now let's mount our cloud storage bucket and hit enter. So you can see that our file system has been successfully mounted. And now if we do an ls, okay, let's first go outside, and now let's again go to our mount folder and do an ls. So we can see we are getting our kitten.png. Now let's try to create a file from here. So file from inside docker container and save it as docker.txt and hit enter. So we have created a file, and now let's check it from our console that it is getting reflected here or not. Yes, so we are getting the docker.txt file. So we are successfully able to mount our Google Cloud bucket inside our Docker container. So these are the two ways through which we can mount our Docker container with our GCS bucket, that is directly mounting the GCS Fuse in our Docker container, or we can first mount it inside our VM and then we can access it through our Docker container. Or if we want to access the file through our virtual machine itself, then we can also do that. So I hope this video was useful for you, and thanks for watching.